All right, guys, quick review here on a Wednesday. We have something new from Chattanooga Whiskey in their barrel finishing series. This time, instead of their high malt bourbon, we have a straight malt whiskey finished in silver oak Cabernet Sauvignon casks. I'm telling you, straight malt, American single malt, it's gonna start coming from everywhere. Let's check out Chattanooga's latest right here. It's the Mash and Drum. What's up, folks? I'm Jason C. from the Mash and Drum. Welcome back to the show. As always, please like, subscribe, help grow the channel for 2023. This is the third release in the Chattanooga finishing series. First, we have the Tennessee High Malt Bourbon finished in tawny port casks, which was a huge favorite from a lot of folks, including myself. Second was their Tennessee High Malt Bourbon finished in Scotch casks, which gave it a little bit of a smokier flavor. It's funny because when you think about the rise of single malt and high malt in the United States, there's a handful of brands embracing that craft. And as I mentioned, I think Chattanooga is arguably a bit ahead of the curve on that one, to go along with some of the other folks just making, you know, American single malt. I really do think it's going to start coming from everywhere, and I do think you're going to see a lot more of the bigger brands getting into the American single malt game. Now, this is a blend of 5 single malt mash bills, so let's break it all down. So the Cabernet cask finish is crafted with 5 single malt mash bills, each containing a range of toasted, roasted, and caramel malts, including a custom toasted barley malt developed with River Brand Malt House. The whiskey was aged for over 4 years, including 18 months in those silver oak Cabernet Sauvignon casks. Silver Oak Cellars, by the way, is one of America's most iconic wineries. They are from the Alexander Valley region of Sonoma's North Coast. You can pretty much see their labels everywhere on the shelf if you're into wine. In true Chattanooga fashion, all the transparent info is available on the bottle, including the 5 malt bills that were used, aged in 53-gallon toasted and charred oak barrels, non-chill filtered, a batch size of 6 to 8 barrels. It's bottled at 95 proof and priced at $60, where Chattanooga whiskey is available near you. Now, we will compare this to the port cask finish, which is the high malt bourbon, instead of just a straight malt like this one is. You know, try to pick up some differences and help you guys out as far as flavor profile goes. On the nose, I mean, it's malty. It's super malty. This is where like that bready, almost like burnt toast profile comes into play. A lot of toasted oak here. There's this dark honey and dark fruit note, of course, with those Cabernet casks kind of intertwining together. You guys ever go to, you know, you see them around the fall time a lot. I'm sure they're often available other times in the fall, but you go to like, you know, you go to like pumpkin picking, or you go apple picking, or all this other stuff that people do in the fall time. And sometimes they sell those flavored honey sticks, where it's like the honey stick that's like either strawberry or grape. I feel like I know I'm just smelling it right now, but that's what I feel like I'm smelling in this glass, is one of those like strawberry infused or raspberry infused like honey sticks. A lot of chocolate from the malt too. I mean, if you're a fan of malty forward profiles, this is pretty solid. The burnt toast, the jamminess, that honey stick flavor, and then you have that little bit of chocolate that rounds it out, kind of like a burnt toast profile. Let's try it. Cheers. You know what? The palate pretty much matches the nose. I think there's a little bit more jamminess and fruitiness that I'm getting on the palate that wasn't on the nose. I will admit, when I first cracked this open, I wasn't a fan. I think the toasted oak profile, it was giving it a bitterness. But now, as this has opened up, I think it's starting to evolve a little bit more. I think more of the Cabernet cask finish influence is coming to the forefront. A little bit more chocolate. Again, that burnt toast, that honey, all kind of intertwining a lot better than when I first cracked this open. Remember, it's only 95 proof, so you kind of, you know, if you're used to drinking, you know, higher proof whiskeys, this may not do it for you, but I do like the flavors that it's bringing so far. Yeah, second sip, it's a lot less spice. It starts to mellow out. You're really just left with just maltiness and the fruitiness from the Cabernet cask. It's not the most complex thing I've had from Chattanooga. It's a solid sipper. Let's compare it to the tawny port finished high malt bourbon, which was the first release in the barrel finishing series. All right, so tawny port cask finish. This is also 95 proof, so I feel like they like to live in that proof range for these finishes, which makes them definitely more approachable. On the nose, wow, the differences couldn't be more apparent. I mean, this is definitely a lot sweeter And even though this is a Tennessee high malt, as it's advertised, I think it's a lot sweeter. I think you still get some of that bourbon mash bill, the corn sweetness in there, as compared to just the malt, where this is a lot more bready, a lot more burnt toasty. It's almost got like this coffee note to it as well, like this infused coffee. All right, let's try the Tawny Port. Yeah, sweet, fruity, a little spicy, a little bit more of a brighter fruit here. The Cabernet cask finish is a little bit more of a dark fruit. The Tawny Port just gives you a little bit of strawberry here, a little bit more of a sweetness, like kind of a powdered sugar type sweetness, but that high malt balances out really well. I can see why a lot of people like this one. Let's go to the Cabernet finish now, coming off of the Tawny Port. This is getting more and more coffee for me. I think what started out for me as chocolate has now morphed into like this raspberry, like latte type thing going on in the glass. There's a hint of like a savory something too on the back end of it that I'm getting. Something a little bit, yeah, something like almost like a minty side to it as well, which is interesting. There couldn't be more of a difference between these two guys. I mean, you have a high malt bourbon mash bill with that Tawny Port finish. It's a lot sweeter, it's brighter. Then you compare it to this, which is like that coffee, raspberry. It's like someone just made you a raspberry espresso, maybe threw some dark honey in it, little sugar on top of it too. It's like there's like a little toasted breadiness to it as well, almost like a biscotti like type cookie to it. It's really good. It's sweet, but it is malty. So if you're not a fan of malt, do not expect this to match what the Tawny Port finish gave you. I have no problem with malt, especially when it's chocolatey and coffee forward like this one is. And I think that touch of that Cabernet, that Silver Oak Cabernet cask just gives it like that jamminess that I think it needs to balance out all that, almost bitter like coffee flavor. I'm not gonna do a full breakdown on this, guys. You don't really see these on secondary too much, but if you are a fan of Chattanooga, you like their Tennessee high malt, and you just like malt in general, I think for $60, all the transparency they give you, this is a really, really good pickup if you like those flavors. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed this review on the Mash and Drum for the Chattanooga straight malt finished in Silver Oak Cabernet casks. That's a mouthful. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit the subscribe button below. Please hit the like button. If you haven't yet, find me on Instagram, find me on Twitter. Let me know if you're interested in this one. Does the malt kind of push you away from this one a little bit based on what Chattanooga has done in the past? Or does this intrigue you and you want to taste it based on the flavors I was giving you? Always love hearing from you guys, and as I always say, it's not about the whiskey, it's the people you share it with. Till next time on the Mash and Drum. Cheers.